Gravel isn't bad roads. Okay,
Right.
because there's this thing that, oh, you know what, let's go and do gravel roads, and next thing you know, that they're all just potholes. Gravel is gravel.
Yeah.
It's not for a road that doesn't have just tarmac. Just bad roads. That's like just
That we have plenty of.
yeah, that's not gravel riding. I don't want to be on that. But something like, you 5 kilometers into the race, you take a detour and you get into gravel territory, and you stay out there. You come out, find some way to finding these courses are a challenge, but it could also try and investing some time in trying to find these courses. You could find safer solutions, and organizers, right? These are all people who follow pro cycling or cycling other parts of the world, right? Just look at what is acceptable today and the standards which are there for safety. When you know that these are the standards being held for safety, why would you bring those standards down to accommodate anything? Because what you're doing is you're saying, okay, our people doesn't need that safety.
I am Venki, a working professional in IT as well as an amateur masters athlete and a coach for endurance sports. You are listening to the Working Athlete Podcast. Here, I talk to working athletes from all walks of life and experts from various sports to provide you with inspiration, training tips, and lifestyle advice. If this is something that interests you, I have a small request from you. Please subscribe to the channel on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts from. You can also let me know what you like and what you would like to listen to more of by commenting in the comment section on YouTube. I promise to do my best to improve with each episode and bring you the best content that helps you and me get better each day. In this episode, I talked to my teammate at Spectrum Racing and a long-time mentor for a lot of us, Rajesh Nair. Rajesh, also known as BabaVelo, has raced all around the world as an amateur over the last 25 years or so. He is very passionate about cycling and is in a privileged position of being able to travel and participate in some of the best cycling events around the world. That meant he took part in hundreds of races all around the world over the years. That experience gives him a perspective that not many of us have. He is outspoken and he wears his heart on the sleeve and shares his opinion without any filters. I think that makes it all the more valuable. To set the context for this episode, a couple of days before we sat down for this chat, he withdrew from a race we traveled to take part in because of safety concerns. He did not want to risk racing in the dark on roads with traffic. We shared constructive feedback to the organizers who were very receptive for the same. But I thought this is a topic all of us need to think more about. In that context, we sat down to discuss about road racing in India and safety aspects we need to take care of when it comes to racing here since we don't have closed roads. Please note that the intent is not to knock on any one race or any one organizer, but to discuss openly what can be done to make racing in general safer for everyone. I hope it comes across as such and that it helps all of us think more seriously about this topic. This episode is brought to you by the Bike Affair. If you are in search of a one stop destination that caters to all your cycling needs, our today's sponsor, the Bike Affair, is the perfect place to check out. I have known the founders of the Bike Affair, Krish and Gokul, personally for nearly 15 years now. In fact, my first century ride was with Krish back in 2008. They are both exceptional human beings and entrepreneurs that believe in providing exceptional service to their customers. And it shows. With over 14 years of experience, the Bike Affair has established itself as a trusted source offering honest advice and exceptional service. They are offering a special treat for the listeners of this podcast. You can enjoy a 10% discount on your first order by using the code BikeyVenki on their website. So if you are in Hyderabad, visit their store in Kondapur, or if you are anywhere else in India, shop online by using the link thebikeaffair.com. I will leave the link in the show notes. Now, enjoy the podcast. Raj? Welcome again to the Working Athlete podcast. So I thought here we are. I'm making you sit in the cold weather of Ooty, wanting to talk about some things that we always love, uh, and cycling, racing, bikes, and all that, right? Um, so where should we start? We on this trip we kind of started of, for an event, um which you kind of said it is a little too unsafe for your liking, and withdrew from it. So I want to kind of use this opportunity to talk about safety events, and there are various events around the world that you have taken part in, and it's not that other those events do not have safety concerns and stuff like that. Even pro races kind of end up in some strange situations that we know. But I want to kind of understand your take on how we can, like, make our events better, and what kind of events would uh, be suitable for our conditions, given the constraints that we have, right? Let us start. Say, what kind of events do you think would suit our Indian situation?
Well, first thing, thanks for having me. Even though I rode with you the entire day, I'm sitting with a different avatar of you now. It's like the podcast avatar of Nike Venki. So it's like, so thanks for having. It's been a great day, So um, I'll be very honest, because if
Yeah.
I'm going to put this, if I'm going to sit and talk about it, then I'd rather just speak what's on my mind.
Yeah.
And because my objective, even for sitting here, is how can we collectively do this better? I mean, it's otherwise. Besides that, I have no concerns. Um, I do, we do. I mean, I've raced for 30 years, and one thing in my races, which I've done Taiwan, beginning in Taiwan all the way to Canada, and everything in between. Safety has never been an issue for me. I have never in my life ever withdrawn from a race for safety.
Right.
It is something that the races I have done, I've taken very seriously. Just because we sign disclaimers, it doesn't mean that I'm signing away my life.
Right.
I love riding my bike. And I love to go back to my family. And at the end of the day, the most important thing is that we are all amateur cyclists. And there's nothing beyond that. So collectively, it's a big responsibility from the rider's perspective. It's also from the organizer's perspective. It has to be an event that is a joyful event. It doesn't have to end up in bad situations. Do we have accidents in Italy? Yes, but if one cyclist loses their life, it's a national tragedy.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
Yeah, of course.
So there's a difference because it depends upon the value of life you place on. So for us, we take it very seriously. So do we see pro races going wrong? Yes, but how many pro races happens in a year?
Right.
So if you put the data together of how many people are on the road, we don't have that many accidents. You have to look at, any given day, there are hundreds of thousands of cyclists on the roads,
Right.
going up and down. Incident happens every now and then. It's taken very seriously. It's taken very, very seriously. In the last few years, we've also seen in the Pro Tours. I think it's a CPA, the Cycling Professionals Association. I don't know, whatever that thing.
Right.
They're taking every race they take it very seriously. Whether it's the sprint finishes, whether it's all the corners. We saw Paris-Roubaix routes getting changed for safety. These are routes that have been there for, I don't know, 100 years. But there is more concern for life now. I mean, we are starting to accept that just because it's professional sports, it doesn't mean that you have to risk your life.
Right.
So that mentality has creeped in, right? I just rode the Algarve Grand Fondo in Portugal before, just a week before I went to Kerala. Not once. We were coming down these hills and mountains at 80, 90 kilometers per hour. We just don't have the concern that we're going to find a vehicle, and it's
Right.
so it's a very different climate.
Yeah,
right?
most of these events that you're talking about outside, outside India,
Yeah.
have road closures, right?
Yes. Road closures are yes. We have road closures. We never race on open. It's racing on open roads is illegal.
Right.
It's as simple as that. You can't race on open roads.
Yeah.
Because to organize the race, you need to have the police involved, the municipality involved. You need to have many civil services involved, health services involved. So it's not and when you have all of this involved, the race is a legal race. So it comes under a lot of safety regulations. You just can't organize a race from point A to point B, and there is traffic flowing in the middle of it, and there is a train, passing, and we don't have all those things.
Right.
These are very serious concerns. So in India now, I moved to India 4 months ago, and even though I've been associated with Indian cycling in some form or the other for nearly 20 years, but now I'm here, right? And now I'm living it. I go out and ride like everybody else, and it worries me, and personally I'm not used to taking too many risks to ride a bike. There are certain roads where I think the bicycle doesn't belong. Like highways, national highways. Why is anybody riding a bike on those roads?
But one of the platforms that we take very seriously in Bangalore, and which kind of holds a good standard for community racing in India is Bangalore Bicycling Championships, BBCh. And although we kind of take all the permissions that are needed from police and other concerned departments, what we are not able to achieve is road closures. And another thing is since we don't have the road closures, the only other alternative that we have is finding a wide enough road that kind of can accommodate a peloton with a wide enough shoulder and the vehicles as well. So that is where we are, and we to be honest, I mean, we cannot say don't race on unless there are road closures. It's not feasible right now. And on highways, both of the situations are not going to happen. So how do we the way I look at it is, how do we make the races and events safe within the constraints that we have?
I don't know. I honestly do not know.
So
say.
Yeah. So I mean, for now, one thing what what we do at BBCh is like kind of cordon off the entire peloton with vehicles front and back, kind of motorbike supports and all. But we try to take all kinds of safety measures, but like you said, it's not foolproof, right? The vehicles are there out there, like
because I see the pictures. I see the photographs, and I see the videos. See, first thing first is that I have great respect for everybody involved in the sport. And when I don't mean to criticize anybody. This is not a platform where I want to criticize anybody. It's about how we can move forward.
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
A positive way, right?
Yeah.
When I look at the pictures of the BBCh, do I want to be part of it? No. No.
Right.
Because why would I want to pin a number on my back And I look at these photographs they come on my feed, and on yes, they are cordoned off, and you can see them. But on the other side, next lane, you see buses, trucks freely passing. Mentally, I can't accept it. I can't accept it because it's perception. It's what is the standard of safety you're used to. It's like seatbelt. Like, I mean, I won't drive today without a seatbelt. Um, so if I'm used to wearing a seatbelt, why should I take it off and drive? Because now I move to a place where it's not necessary. Right.
So what
It's
do you, I mean, what would you consider a safe event? Are the road closures the only way to go about it?
No, another point is that the races are getting faster here as well. The races are getting faster. Before any of these mass start races, we never really saw a peloton as such. I mean, the race at start breaks away into pieces, and you will have a breakaway and then a bunch of people chasing, and then it was like every man for himself in the back. Those formats were kind of even easier in some ways because everybody sticks to the left side of the road. Which way do we drive here?
Left side
of the road, and you kind of just move forward. But now, with more and more, with the level of cycling going up, you're going to see a bigger and bigger peloton, right? I mean, you're going to see a bigger and bigger group of people chasing. The first group will be, 20 people. The next group could be 40 people chasing the first 20. Those are big groups, and those groups are only going to get bigger. They're not going to get smaller. They're only going to get bigger. So what happens then, right? And so we have to think forward. We don't have the situation yet, but it's coming. It's definitely coming in the next couple of years. You are going to see more bunches riding together. Then I don't know what these people want to do. Definitely from, for example, talking about the race, the event that we participated together last week, the Tour of Thekkady, incredible bunch of people. I mean, they were lovely, sweet people, and the only thing they had in their mind, from what I have seen, was to get the people out there, have a good day on the bike, put a nice event together, and that's all, and promote cycling and all that. I mean, everything was just a positive initiative. They have no other agenda, right? And it worked out beautifully. Just one person withdrew. It was just me. It was the same thing. I'm used to wearing a seatbelt. I'm not going to take it off just because I'm in a situation where it's not necessary, probably. Right. So when I found myself in the front group, there were 10 of us. I couldn't see anything. I really couldn't see anything. I have never ridden a mass start event before sunrise. It's as simple. I've never done it. So then I asked myself, why would I have come to India, and my first event is going to be a mass start event in the dark? The other people are willing to do it. They're used to it. So do they have a choice? I don't know. But I have a choice that I don't have to do it. Right. So I withdrew. I felt horrible about it. There was nothing, it was an impulsive decision. My instinct told me, Raj, stop. And I stopped. And that was it. I waited for the sunrise, and I rode a bunch of climbs, and I was happy. We were 10 in that group. Next year could be 20, 30. And then what happens? Because the level of cycling is going up. So these are situations that we have to address. I don't know. Even the Cycling Federation, with all their ambitions, or I don't know if they really have any ambitions, but even their races are just going around a newly constructed highway, going 10 laps up and down.
That's the
only tick boxes that, listen, we held the national championship.
That's the only way to kind of they don't conduct in open roads, thankfully, and the only way they could cordon off a section of road is to find a
go to some bizarre places in the country where there's a new highway is being constructed. find some place where they can put clothes in both sides and they do a race. I mean,
not necessarily that that the case is not necessarily that all the time, but wherever they decide to conduct a race, they get a permission to cordon off one side of a highway, and they like maybe a 20-kilometer loop or something like that, and we go up and down, right? There is not necessarily a big variety. There is not necessarily great courses that are
there are no courses.
challenging to every type of cyclist and
Yeah.
stuff like that. There are situations where national games is held in Goa, then there's a course that suited the climbers and stuff like that. But in general, if that's the case,
Yeah.
they have to find a decent enough stretch to cordon off, and that too in a limited
Yeah.
time and dates. Yeah, that's
I
the
don't know.
situation even at the top
I don't know.
level. Yeah. So given this situation, right, we whoever is conducting events, be it BBCh, be it someone like Tour of Thekkady guys, and various other guys tend to get police permissions, right, and put them in important junctions, and organize these events with a bunch of volunteers, right? Um, and in my view, having these events is absolutely critical for cycling to survive, right? Um, but within these constraints, how do we make them safer? Uh, any ideas, thoughts there?
I don't know. One of the formula, I don't know. I, I don't know. I don't know how you're going to make it safer, because having police permission, that has nothing to do with making a race safer. I mean, the police really aren't contributing, apart from, they can be at an intersection. They're not shutting the intersection. They're just basically letting people go through, whatever. But the traffic is still flowing next to you. So they're not asking the traffic to move away. They are not giving, there's no police patrol along, because we have police cars along with our races, right? We have actually police escort but we don't see that. We just see them stationed. I appreciate that. This is not like, I appreciate what they're doing, I mean, it's heavily volunteer driven, incredible. So this is what is going to continue.
Right.
Unless maybe they're not, I remember like the Bombay Pune race, it's been there. I'm not sure if they're doing it still, but they used to be one of these incredible classics that existed in Indian cycling. It was the same thing, it was just a whole bunch of motorbikes trying to keep the riders safe from traffic. Traffic was just flowing up and down all those ghats and and that's how those races were held. So there's never been a tradition of road closures for a cycling event. It's not even a thought they consider. That is maybe a cultural thing, where keep in mind that I don't mind saying this: cycling is not the indigenous sport to India. The very fact that if you look at a basic bicycle at any event, there's not even a single component that's made in India. We have embraced everything. It is true. Unless someone would correct me, there is nothing on that bike that says made in India. Everything's coming from outside. Even the road racing, all that, we're trying to take this concept because we love cycling. We love what we see on social media. We love what we see. But the thing is, where is infrastructure? Because road cycling is all about infrastructure. Mountain biking could be great. In fact, I was, as a parent, if my kid said, "Hey, listen, I would love to get a cycle," I would go ride mountain bikes.
Yeah.
Really? It's still cycling.
Yeah.
But the road cycling is dependent on road safety and road infrastructure, and unless, and also dependent on the government, very heavily, So will they give us road closures? I don't know, But having said that, events like Shayadhri Classic, Nilgiris, for example, or other events where they are timing just the climbs or certain sections seems to work a lot better in terms of safety, because what bothers me is this whole mass start concept, because mass start concept is, it's a very different form of racing, but ITTs, or having a long day on the bike and having only the sections of the climb time seems to work better, at least from the safety perspective. So it's easier to control, easier to find sections where we can cordon off certain parts of the road, and so those concepts seems to work very well.
Right.
That could be the solution to this part of the world, because we're not going to get 160 kilometers of road closure. We are not, we're not going to get it. At least I don't foresee that happening. But I was supposed to go to Shayadhri Classic. I didn't go, but I hopefully I'll go next year. But everything about it seems to me like, hey, this formula works.
I mean that actually absolutely makes sense, because we have been seeing that thing working at Tour of Nilgiris. We have been doing this, only timed sections on certain days for like more than 12-13 years now, right? And Shayadhri Classic is another example. And timed climbs where there is no mass, like 30, 40, 50 people kind of together racing against traffic. I think that makes perfect sense.
Also, just another thing I want to say is that, there's this whole thing of Gran Fondo, I've done about 100 Gran Fondos in my life, they are pure race from start to finish. They're proper race. It's a proper road race. It's only called Gran Fondo because the amateurs do it. Otherwise, it will be a pro race, right? Another concept of racing that which we do a lot in Italy, is circuit races. Not crit, circuit races. If you can find out 5-6 kilometer loops, we have races where most of the races that we have in the calendar in my region, in southern Italy, for instance, are 5-6 kilometer loops, sometimes 4 kilometers, sometimes 8-9 kilometers. So we'll do 6 laps of 9 kilometers, or we'll do 10 laps of 7 kilometers, around that 60, 70, 80 kilometers total. That's depending on how big the circuit is. Easy to control.
And maybe with that example, I think maybe Goa Classic guys have around to something. Right?
Yes, so seems like they are. I've not studied their
It's going to,
but it seems like that. Easier to control, because it's much easier to control, and you can even for the races to become safer among the athletes, if you get lapped, you're out. And trust me, when the level starts getting high, you don't get lapped. I mean, I do these races where we're into the 8th lap, and in the 8th lap is when we finally start getting lapped, right? So the moment you get lapped, your race is over, or you just finish with them at the end of the lap, and then the timings are out, right? Easier, because you don't want, if the riders are spread like the way we are seeing it right now, then you will have all these group of riders littered in the course, and then the leaders are just lapping them, making the course dangerous, right? So when you start getting lapped, you're out. So the train, don't get lapped. Right. And or challenge yourself. I'll make it to 3 laps before I get lapped. But makes it much safer. That is something that could work here if people could identify out of the city a 6, 7, 8 kilometer loops, or even smaller to begin with, and have categories, so that then it's not, everybody racing together. So if the smaller the circuit, then you go categories. So in the US, when I was racing in the US, we would have Cat 5 all the way. We'll go down to Pro 1, 2, 3, right? We were, the race will start at like 7:30, and we'll by 12:30 we are done. But everybody had a chance to race. The races don't last more than 45-50 minutes, right? And so again, safe, right? This is the way forward, I think. Gravel could be a good way to do here. You could I've like the tour of battlefield that I did in the US. Things like Strade Bianche that you saw the other day, where you're on the road, then you're doing gravel. You're on the road, you're doing gravel. So you're in and out of the road. So your exposure on the road is less, and you're out there away from traffic. Gravel is doing very well. So that could be because you have to adapt.
Yeah.
Roads is not happening for us right now,
Right.
at least from my perspective. So we have to find different ways of keeping the sport going. Maybe gravel could do very well here.
Yeah.
Mountain bike guys don't seem to have any problem.
Right.
That sport is flourishing. I was
Yeah.
just looking at Kishore's videos yesterday. The kids are doing great.
Yeah.
As a parent, I would love to see my kids do that.
Yeah, I mean it's absolutely right that mountain biking is way safer in terms of you are not exposed to open traffic. The problem is there again, one of the happy hunting grounds of Kishore and other his students and everyone, right? Avlahalli is closed for cyclists now. So I mean, we used to many of the trails that we used to ride and race in are not accessible for us anymore. So we are having to go out, but it is absolutely kind of worth taking that extra step or extra effort to maybe grow the younger generation into that kind of safer racing environment, I would think. But also the other things like ITTs, now gravels.
And even ITTs, they don't need to be 40 kilometers long. I don't know why people are obsessed with the fact that they have to be 40 kilometers long.
Right.
They don't. Really. Leave it to the pros to ride 40 kilometers.
Right.
Amateurs are well off doing 20-25 kilometer time trials. I have done, even the UCI World Championship, Grand Fondo World Championship time trials, they're having more than 25 kilometers. And these are the world's best amateurs.
Yeah.
What are they trying to prove with a 40 kilometer time trial?
No, the time trials here, at least in Bangalore, what we conduct, are the length usually is determined by where we can find the safe U-turn, right? And it used to be 33 kilometers before.
Directions, from one end to other end. That's it, right? 20 kilometers.
The problem with that is we tend to have the roads we have is either tailwind or headwind.
Doesn't matter.
It matters, of course, because we want to compare the timings, right, over the period of time. But yeah, ITTs, and I think you're onto something with gravel could be a venue that we can explore, right? Because we are seeing it flourish, everywhere else.
It just needs segments. You just need segments. Doesn't need to be 100% pure gravel race out there, because gravel isn't bad roads. Okay,
Right.
Because there's this thing that let's go and do gravel roads, and next thing they're all just potholes. Gravel is gravel.
Yeah.
It's not a road that doesn't have just tarmac. Just bad roads. That's like.
That we have plenty of.
Yeah, that's not gravel riding. I don't want to be on that. Something like you 5 kilometers into the race, you take a detour and you get into gravel territory and you stay out there. You come out, find some way to finding these courses are a challenge, but it could also investing some time in trying to find these courses. You could find safer solutions. And just before I forget, just in the back of the mind, organizers, right? These are all people who follow pro cycling or cycling other parts of the world, right? Just look at what is acceptable today and the standards which are there for safety. When you know that these are the standards being held for safety, why would you bring those standards down to accommodate anything? Because what you're doing is you're saying, okay, our people doesn't need that safety. Our people are used to not being safe, and we don't place the same value on these people's lives, so we can bring the threshold down and we can just kind of get
right. Yeah.
I don't believe in that. For me, a life is a life. It doesn't matter if it's in the West, if it's here or somewhere else. If the value of life is the same, it's not an exchange currency rate.
Right.
So So we see these standards going up and up and up. We should raise our own standards to meet that instead of lowering the standards. I mean, we see construction workers working in these sites, they have no sense of safety. We are doing the same thing because we are saying, oh, you know what, it's okay, and that to me is unacceptable.
Right.
Yeah,
just to close the thread on the tour of Thekkady, that incident, the one of the concerns that you had, and to be frank, even I had, was racing in the dark. I mean, starting in the dark, right? 5 o'clock start. For whatever reasons they are doing, they are talking about slow riders not having enough time, or even the faster riders having to spend lesser time in the heat and all that, I think. And we discussed this, and you said, spending more time in the heat is better than spending in the hospital, right?
there was no heat,
Right. Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
The Tour de France is held it starts at 12 o'clock in the afternoon and it's 35 degrees.
Right.
It begins at noon.
Right.
Most of the races in Europe in the summer are 40 degrees. They're really 40 degrees. It's burning hot, Coming back to dark mass starts. Again, mass starts don't belong in the dark. Full stop. Full stop. Tour of Thekkady, I'm 100% sure they have taken this seriously. And I really think, judging from what little I know about them, I think they will do something about it. The reason they got away with this is probably because the first year they had maybe 50 odd riders. The second year they had 100 odd riders. This year they had 200 some riders. So which means that they're a good event. It's successful. Next year they could have 300 events plus event, right?
I would think more.
Yeah. So what is happening now in the dark? There are more and more people in the dark, right?
And the probability increases.
Right. Yeah. And what happened in my experience we had a 3 kilometer neutral, and then the race opened up. Within 5 kilometers, just another 2 kilometers into the race, which is 5 kilometers from the hotel, there were already 10 people. The rest got dropped, right? Next year it could be 20. The level is going to go up. The kids are getting better and better at racing. That group could be 20 tomorrow in the dark, not necessary. Second thing I told them was that on such a fantastic course, a beautiful, spellbinding course, was not short of challenges. The first 10-15 minutes did not decide the result of the race. It has no impact whatsoever what's going to happen 160 kilometers later on top of the mountain, right? So there was nothing at stake. So at this point, I wish, this is their event, but if I knew a bit more about this even prior to the event, maybe I would have passed the word, maybe I probably wouldn't have showed up instead of, going and withdrawing, right? Doesn't look nice. I would have said, I should not go. But and this could be maybe other events as well. So I'm not using them I'm just using them as example, but I don't mean to. It's not, they're not my target. Really. You can there's nothing. Look at, people when they switch on the TVs on the World Tour races, right? They start seeing the race 30, 50 kilometers into the race. They're not starting from flag off.
Right.
Most of these races are neutral at start.
Yeah.
Because they begin in town centers and there's a flag off for the people. Then it's almost a ceremonious start.
Right.
Then there is a neutral vehicle in front to bring them to a point outside somewhere where they could have
the flag off.
A flag off.
Yeah.
Without putting a foot down.
Yeah.
Just flag off. Right? The car just moves away and the race begins. It could be 15, 20 kilometers. I have done races where we were on top of the mountain. We would descend in a neutral way and then begin our race, because there was no reason to start the race on top and then the whole descent is a race, because there's no reason. Even the 8th up, the 8th up of 2 years ago, which I took part, the week after the same event where Vingegaard and Pogacar were fighting, right? Our finished on top of the mountain. They finished in the town in the valley because they didn't want amateurs going down that mountain to descend into the finish line.
Right.
So for amateurs, they kept it safe by finishing on top and then descend neutral.
Right.
The race is over for you guys. Go home safely, right? So same thing. In a race like this, they could easily have the first 20-25 kilometers of the race neutral. It keeps the bunch together. It keeps the whole race together. The race riders are safe. Organizers have all of them right there. They need one vehicle in front, one vehicle in the back, move out of town, flag off.
Yeah. And they immediately hit a hill or whatever,
yes,
right?
The first hill is enough to make the separation. If it's flat, 2 kilometers of flat terrain, if I was in the first 10 and everybody else got dropped, if the hill is 4 kilometers long, you will see the group split.
Yeah.
And the race is going to open up, right? Everybody's safe.
Yeah.
Everybody's safe, and by then even the light comes out. Their logic was, I understood the logic when they said that, but our 2 riders have to begin in the dark. Probably right, because 2 riders are going to take much longer, so they want to have a, start together. So, but I don't think that people who are racing should pay the price of having an unsafe race because the tourists are going to take 12 hours to get to the finish line, right? So, I understand the whole BRM concept, but road racing isn't BRM. It's not per person riding individually.
Right.
It's a lot of people riding together. And when a lot of people together, the risks are multiplied.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think that's the neutral start.
Just because something doesn't happen, right? Lucky, lucky nothing happens.
Right.
It doesn't mean that it wouldn't happen. It only needs to happen once or twice and everybody's left in bad taste.
Yeah.
So these are common sense solutions. You don't wait for something bad to happen before you use your common sense and try to say this is how it should be.
Right. Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, definitely. I think the organizers have been very receptive of the feedback. They're wonderful people.
Yeah.
And hopefully if they implement all these kind of,
they will have a great event.
Yeah, they will have a great event because the course, like you said, is an amazing course, and it's going. I mean, it is a platform that kind of gives people like an experience that to remember, right?
It is a true ground form, though.
Yeah.
Okay, I have seen other people using the word ground form, though. But this particular event is actually a true ground form, though. That is what a ground form is about. Long distance, big ride, big challenges, and a mass start event.
Yeah. I think they will do really well. Considering all these aspects, and more and more events are coming, which is great to see because all of these people are just passionate individuals like you and me, just putting in the work, right? Like
something else I want to touch also with all of the events that are coming up is the categories. What's going on? They're mixing up all these elites with amateurs. Elites needs to have elites. Amateurs have to be amateurs. I've seen a lot of this mix-up of categories, which isn't right for both parties.
Right.
There is, if you are holding a federation license and you are one of those people, who've been blessed to have the talent to represent the federation, your state, whatever. Why are you racing with amateurs who just want to get a Saturday ride in or a Sunday ride in?
Yeah.
You're taking away the fun, I mean, let them be protagonists in their own little category, don't be a sandbagger.
Right.
I see a lot of that, and it's not, I don't
like when BBCh started, we had everyone mixed up and starting. Now, the elite has a different category, amateur have a different category and distance.
Yes.
Women have their own start. Masters, we oldies have our own start now, which is great to see that we are not having to try our best to hang on and all that.
Like if you're like 50 plus, why do you want to have the same profile of race? If there are 4 climbs, let the masters do 3 climbs.
Right.
You can just finish the masters of climb before. You don't have to make it like you know, I mean, even in the UCI Grand Fondo, we have different distance for 50 plus and all the 50 plus tend to have a course which is 50 shorter, and 50 and below have the course which is much longer.
Right.
Because there's no point having these courses. You want to make it safe. That's also a safety perspective. We don't 160 kilometers like when we did Bondone, in Trento, I did a world championship race where we did 4,000 meters of climbing. 4,000 meters of climbing, And that was my category. I was less than 50 at the time, but the 55 plus or whatever did half of that. Did Bondone 1.5 times, and it was about 80, 90 kilometers, not the whole thing. Accommodate.
Yeah.
I
mean, hopefully with time and more events and more participation in each of these categories, they will have all these improvements with time. I would think. And I mean, we can actually go on and on with this.
Yes.
But let us let us use. We will keep meeting. We'll use another time to continue this discussion. But
it's a great discussion. I think it benefits everybody, and whether this is being heard by the organizers or the riders themselves, even the races, if you don't feel safe, it's okay. Withdraw. Doesn't matter. We live to fight another day. Also sends a message to the organizer that this is not acceptable. Just because you signed a waiver doesn't mean anything. From the organizer's perspective, great job that you're doing something for the community, bringing these people together. Just take the safety part a little bit more seriously. It's good for everybody, and the sport grows and helps.
Super, Raj. Thanks again.
Tomorrow back to another hard drive.
Yes.
That was my conversation with Rajesh. I hope you enjoyed that. If you are enjoying these podcasts and are finding them useful, please consider supporting the podcast by subscribing to it on YouTube as well as on your favorite podcasting app. It really helps. Thanks again for your continuous support. See you next week with another guest.